Welcome to the Ask Lee segment of my channel, and if you have any questions regarding magic, spirituality, witchcraft, demonology, the occult, whatever it may be, then all you have to do is drop it into the comments of any of the Ask Lee videos and I will add it to the queue. And I do these every Wednesday, so just look out for your questions. Welcome to my channel. You are entering the world of magic and mysticism with your host, Lee W. Johnson. Keep the lights on and help improve the channel by becoming a supporter for just $2.99 per month. Hit the join button. Hello everybody. Alright, into the questions. First one is from dgrace327. Do you believe that we have our own Djinn, and how do we work with them like summoning? It really depends on what you mean by our own Djinn or Djinn. If we're referring to for instance, a spirit from the Goetia, I'm not sure we would have our own. A lot of people speak about matron or patron, which is a spirit that is kind of divinely connected with us, and often through various lives. And in that case, I wouldn't say summoning either. Summoning is kind of like a naughty word. But creating a relationship, building a relationship with that spirit would be something that we would do. And that's usually the same way we would build a relationship with any spirit, whether it's a god or a goddess or whatever it is. If, however, you mean a personal daimon, and I think this can often be equated with the term Djinn in reference to it being a genie or a genius. It's sometimes referred to as the genius, this higher self, the holy guardian angel, which was spoken about in Abramelin and used a lot in ceremonial magic, especially through association with Crowley, the holy guardian angel. So we can draw a similarity there, or a tie with words. I can't even think of my own words at the moment. But so as I said, if we think of the holy guardian angel, it's a higher self, the higher self. It has also been called the fetch, the personal daimon, but is also the genius, which then refers to the genie, which refers to Djinn. Okay, so it's possible that that's what you're referring to here, or what you've heard reference to. And in that case, then there's a variety of different ways you can contact that particular higher self, or holy guardian angel, or Djinn, personal daimon, etc., etc., etc. One is to do the Abramelin working, another is to do Crowley's Liber Samek. Another is to simply just sit and pray to your higher self every day, until you come into knowledge and consequently conversation with your holy guardian angel or your higher self. You can have a look at the PGM, the Greek Magical Papyri. There is talk of, or mention of, the personal daimon in there, and various rituals you can go through. So there's a lot of ways you can actually do this. It mostly involves prayer to your higher self, and that can take 7 minutes, or it can take 7 years, it can take 70 years. There's no time frame stamped on it. It just takes as long as it takes. Some people, they get into contact with their holy guardian angel very quickly. Other people, it can take years and years of doing constant prayers and and stuff like that. So it's kind of a big topic, and I think that's what we're talking about here. In reference to our own Djinn, would be most probably the genius, the Djinn, the genie, which is our personal daimon. Now, when it comes to this personal daimon, there's a lot of different interpretations of what it actually is. In some references, it is part of our soul. It is our higher soul, our higher self. But at the same time, it's kind of disconnected from our soul, part of, but disconnected at the same time, but is also not a separate spirit. So there's a bit of difficulty trying to interpret this in proper terminology or in English words, really. So it's kind of part of us, but not part of us. It's not separate from us, but it is separate from us. So I think you can see it. It's a bit of it's a tricky situation, tricky to try and explain. But once you gain that knowledge and conversation, you understand it in a it's part of the mysteries. Let's put it that way. I keep saying that a lot lately. It's part of the mysteries, because it's only something you can experience. It's not really something that can be explained properly. So yeah, have a look into, if that's what we're referring to here, then have a look into reference of the Holy Guardian Angel, Crowley's work, Ceremonial Magic, Abramelin, the personal daimon. There's reference to the eudaimon in Greek mythology or Greek terms. And this is, if you have a look at Socrates, he often spoke about having a eudaimon, which was a kind of a personal guide, and it kind of spoke to him. So there's that also. Very broad topic there. Okay, so I hope that helps. I don't know if it does. But let's go on to the next one. This is from Kathy Pryor, 4281. Even objects, items, rocks, plants, etc. have souls or God source energy inside them. Fascinating. I can see why they have a lot of wisdom, since they have seen generations of humans come and go. I wonder how some souls choose to be animals, rocks, and plants. Do all of us have demon spirit guides, alien guides, and or elemental nature spirit guides, along with the traditional angels, ancestors, and former human guides? Okay, so the first question there is, I wonder how some souls choose to be animals, rocks, and plants. Not really something I have an answer for, but I would also ask the question, do we have a choice? Do we get a choice? If we're talking about the cosmic soup idea, then all the souls, whether it's animal, rocks, people, whatever, all go back into the cosmic soup. It all gets mixed up, and then a clump gets taken out and put into a new body, whether that's a rock, an animal, a bird, a fish, a person, a human being. It gets put into a body. But do we get a choice? Don't know. Have to question that as well. The other question, do all of us have demon spirit guides, alien guides, and or elemental nature spirit guides, along with the traditional angels, ancestors, and former human guides? Yes, I believe we do. And those guides come in a variety of different ways. It could be an animal guide, which just pops up one day and kind of pushes you in a different direction or makes you question something, but then it's gone. It's that just pops up and it's gone, but it's just that thing that was put in your path to cause something to happen. We have various guides which are spirit entities, and I don't really want to label them as being demonic, angelic, elemental, or anything like that. It's just generally spirit guides. which can be there for a period of time, or again just pop up for an instant, or are there for a long period of time, even a lifetime. We have these various spirit guides, and as I said, I don't really want to label them as a particular type of spirit. It's just a spirit. I've had the spirit guide as a Native American, an old shaman, or medicine man. Let's rather use that term. And he kind of switched between being this old medicine man into a young warrior. From time to time, he'd come in appearing as different ages and different types of being. I used to sit there and question, how can I believe he's actually there if he keeps changing his form? And he said to me, why do you think I'm actually here in the first place? So there's various spirit guides. I've had animal spirit guides that have popped up in physical form, like heron, crab, carp was one. And these kind of, it's difficult. I think a lot of people kind of see an animal like a bird in their garden or something and think all of a sudden they're getting a message from spirits. It's really not always the case. In situations like that, what you'll probably find is they pop up unexpectedly, or you kind of walking along a path and you almost step on them. It becomes very apparent that this animal is there for a reason. It's there to give you some kind of message. How you decipher that message is a different story. That becomes quite difficult. But it really is something that just kind of slaps you in the face almost. But it's not, every single day you're going to see a bird or an animal or an insect or something like that, and that's a message from the spirits. It's not the case. It doesn't happen that often. Let's put it that way. But it also relates to reading omens. If you get into reading omens and you see various signs, that can get to the point where everything you see, all of a sudden you think is a message or an omen. It's not. There are specific things that point to something being an omen. So it's the same type of thing. All right. Let's do another question. That one. Okay, so this is from Lord Swensen. What is your view on Akashic Records? Would you have any advice on finding missing books from one's own library? I'm sure this came up previously. I'm not actually sure if it's the same question. I don't have a lot of experience with the Akashic Records. We did do, if you go, I'll put the link up here. As said again, in one of these corners, I always forget which one it is. The little info icon. We did do a live chat in Into the Wildwood a couple of weeks back. It was advice from new witches, and I'll put the link in. Go and have a look at that, because Kai does talk about the Akashic Records. It was actually a question that came up in Ask Lee, and I suggested to that person that they tune in on that coming Friday, because we're going to do a advice from new witches live, and I'll ask the question of Kai, because Kai has experience with the Akashic Records specifically. So go and have a look at that, and you should be able to get or find an answer in there. Right, so I'm going to go on to the next one. It's from Oleander Sky. My question is, do you think that it is wise for families such as the Ducants to keep their family books hidden? Thank you. Also, happy birthday. My birthday. Oh, this is quite an old one then. This is the beginning of the month. Thank you very much for the birthday wishes, and hope you had a good birthday. All right, so Do you think that it is wise for families such as the Ducants to keep their family's books hidden? Yes, I actually kind of do. You'll actually find this a lot in the older, specifically, or very much in the older covens and traditions. And it's not always to do with being discriminated against or being targeted or anything like that. It is, if we look at the witch's pyramid, to know, to will, to dare, to keep silent. When we look at the to keep silent part, it's very much about holding. There's a lot of ways we can interpret the witch's pyramid and the four corners of it. But specifically with the to keep silent section or part of it, one way we can interpret that is to not talk about your own practice. And there's a lot of reasons for that. One of them is that you hold your power. If you start talking about it, you release your power or release that specific power. So, not talking about your own practices or the practices of your coven or the tradition that you follow is a very old thing. It's an old thing that people used to do and still do nowadays. There's a lot I won't talk about my own personal practice because I don't. It's not that I don't want people to know, but it's just that I like to retain that power for myself because it helps with my magic, and it's part of the witch's pyramid to keep silent. So, when it comes to specifically families, covens, traditions, groups of practitioners, they may talk generally about their own practice, but they won't get into specifics, and they probably won't talk about the initiatory processes or the mysteries or things like that, because that, in a lot of cases, requires somebody to actually enter the tradition itself, become initiated into it, be connected to the specific egregore which is created through the collective energy, and experience it for themselves. Because if you look at traditional witchcraft, for instance, there's a lot of books on traditional witchcraft, and every traditional witch practices differently. But what you'll find is there are some commonalities in practice, but when you really start reading all the books, you kind of see that all the similarities, but it doesn't really get into the real nitty-gritty of what traditional witchcraft is and the practices themselves. It's because it's an experiential thing. You have to go in and you have to experience it firsthand. It's no good talking about it, because just talking about it brings nothing. So it's very much somebody opens the door for you, but they can't take you in, they can't lead you any further. All they can do is open the door for you and then, quite often just push you through. But you have to go and experience it yourself. And that's what happens within these covens, within these groups, especially when it comes to initiatory style groups. And when it comes to the Ducants and traditional or generational demonolatry, one of the reasons was probably, I don't know myself because I wasn't part of it, but one of the reasons was probably because there are secrets, there are mysteries that cannot be revealed or spoken about, because they have to be experienced. So, and also to hold power, to keep the power instead of sharing it. So there's a lot to that, and I think it's something that a lot of families, family traditions, covens and groups will do and should do for that very specific reason. Okay. Let me just see how long the next one is, just to see if we can do it. If we've got time. Okay, the next one is about darkness. I think we'll leave that for next week. It's from Max Blizzard. So, Max, just watch out for next week's Ask Lee video. Okay, so I'll see you then. Have a good one. Cheers for now. Bye bye.